Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's May 8th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And before we start our chart lesson, I thought I would go over a trade somebody sent me asking me about it. And this trade is fraught with a lot of different problems here. For one thing, their entire read is wrong. We're actually in a downtrend right here, and this person's going long. And I think because they think there's a bigger uptrend going here, and this is incorrect. So the first thing you can say is their read is not correct, because what it is, you'll see on my chart, I'll show it to you when we go to do the chart lesson. But there was a regular trend line, a long-term uptrend trend line here, and this was the first, or actually it was further back, and then we had two legs up. This was a leg up, and this was a leg up. And so we were starting a downtrend, and you can clearly see he has the downtrend on his chart, and he still went long right there. And he called this a second entry. That's the second thing. By the counts, this would actually probably give you a first entry, second entry. But look at this. Does this look like two legs back to the trend line or the EMA or anything like that? Doesn't to me. It looks like one leg down. This is just sideways stuff, so that's not a leg down. Here's your first leg down, then a correction, and then a second leg down, and lo and behold, look, a second entry triggers down here, and it kind of takes off. And even here he should have had a winner, but what he did was he missed the trade when it triggered, and he dropped a limit order back in there, and it went all the way to the EMA, turned down, and came back. Never do that. If you're below the EMA, don't be going long, especially don't be going long late like that. If he'd have taken this trade if he'd have entered where he was supposed to, he'd have still had a winner. So that's one thing, but he just, he lets it move all the way to the EMA, and you can see it touch it and turn back down. That's telling you that we're in a downtrend. You already see the move down there in the trend line, and this closed right back inside. So you're still in a downtrend. So you're not even looking for longs here. So that's a big mistake. Here's another mistake. He entered on this bar, but this is your signal bar right here. You can't enter on this bar because the signal bar is always the bar that makes the highest point in a swing high, which would be this bar or even this bar to swing high. But since you're trying to go long, you're looking for the lowest point in a swing low, and that would be this bar or this bar or this bar or this one or this one and then this one. So you can't move if this one doesn't qualify, which you can see. I mean, there's no reason you'd ever want to go long. That bar doesn't qualify. This bar is close. I don't even know if this bar, I mean, that probably closes in the upper 1/3. I'll give him that, but it's an inside bar. It's not your signal bar. So this was your signal bar. It doesn't qualify, so automatically there's no trade there. Just following that rule would have kept him out of this, even with a bad read. And, when the market's super volatile, it might pay off if it goes a few ticks and you miss it and you get to put a limit order in. I mean, I've talked about that. I do that sometimes. But if you're new and you're learning, don't even try to do that, because you're asking for trouble. Because if he'd have entered properly here, even with a bad read, it would have still been a winner. So unless you're a skilled trader, don't try to enter with limit orders. Just wait. You got to put your buy stop one tick above the signal bar, and that's that. It really should have been up here, and there was no trade because this doesn't qualify. Another problem, let's just assume his trend line was correct here. The other problem is we're not quite back to it yet. When you get that close to the trend line, your target is probably, you're in an uptrend, the trend line is probably the target. So wait until prices get back there. Don't try to, people get so antsy and they want to enter a trade so bad that they try to manufacture trades. You got to be disciplined. You got to be patient. You got to wait on the setups, and you wouldn't get a setup till it got back to this trend line. If that trend line was valid, which it just goes right through it. The only one valid is the downtrend line, and then you get a close outside and a new low. So you could have gone long on that second entry. I think prices end up going lower still yet. But if you'd have went long where you were supposed to, the trade would have worked easily. Even here, if he'd had entered properly, it would have been enough to get his scalp. So even you can even make tiny mistakes sometimes and still survive. But if you just completely blatantly break the rules, you're going to lose. So keep that in mind. So yeah, this is not a very good trade. I don't. There's nothing. I mean, there's so many different things that are wrong here. It's not an uptrend. This trend line is not correct here. This is your retest after a trend line break. This move up and this second move up. And so we've started a downtrend here. And this is just the first leg of it. And there may be a bigger trend channel working lower. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly. But when we flip over to do the chart lesson, I'll show you this trade on my chart, and you can see how much different it looks and how off his read is. But there's just a lot of different things here, and so I wanted to share this with everybody so everybody can learn. You can't go to this next bar. If you don't enter on the signal bar, the trade is over. I don't care if the most beautiful bar you've ever seen in the world shows up next, you can't go long, or you can't enter the trade because it could be a short as well. Now, if this had matching lows, yeah, you could use this bar, but only if it had matching lows or made a tick lower or went lower. But again, he's too early. He's in a downtrend. He's below the EMA. He didn't enter when he was supposed to. He waited till it backed up. I'm telling you, if you're new at this and learning, don't even try to enter late with a limit order. Just skip. If you miss the trade, you miss the trade. So, yeah, this thing is fraught with lots of errors here. And so good learning opportunity for him, and I thought I'd share it with everybody else. So we'll get on to the chart lesson, and I'll show you this trade on my chart. Okay, real quickly, here's this trade on my chart. You can see the trend working up. We had the close outside, move to a new low, and then we're headed to make a retest of the high. We made one leg up, correction, second leg up, and they're probably really close to measured moves. In fact, they're perfect measured moves. Two perfect legs up, and then now we're trending down. So he had a trend line drawn up here, and we weren't even back to it. So let's just assume that there is a trend here. We'll draw it like he did, so you can see it. And you can see we're not back to the trend line. When we came off the high, if this is a good trend, which maybe it still is, you would expect prices to at least get back to that trend line, but they keep going lower. But there's no entry here to begin with, so he should have never entered there to begin with, because the entry is on this bar, not this bar. And so, but if he'd have waited till the true second entry, which was right here, he's got another easy win. He could have entered on either one of those bars because they have matching lows, like I talked about. So anyway, I'm not going to spend any more time on this. Hopefully you see his read is off, his entry is incorrect. It's not a second entry. A lot of different issues with this trade. So signal bar was no good, and he's trading an uptrend when we're in a downtrend. So the fact that this downtrend's still valid means you can't go long right there anyway. So there's just a lot of different things wrong with this trade. But hopefully it was a good learning opportunity for everybody. I'll try to do some more of these here and there just for learning opportunities. But here's the big picture of my chart so you can see it there. But we'll come back and go through the chart lesson here in a minute. Let's go to the daily chart. All right, it's not quite 2:30. It's about 10 minutes before 2:30, and that was why I went ahead and did this, because I'm going to start the chart lesson right at 2:30 once we've reached our 2:30 cutoff time. But you can see another update here. We're getting back into oversold territory. I think we're still headed for this target. I think you have to assume that's the target. Whether we make it, I don't know, but I would assume that's our target. So until prices start selling off or we reach that target, I continue to, as long as we're trending up, go with it. So we go where the price action takes us, and I want to say that again real quickly. We got a little bit of time here. It's going to be a longer video today, most likely. But we are not pattern traders. People get tired. They hear this thing about this two-legged pullback, this second entry. It's a powerful, powerful setup or pattern. But that's all it is a pattern. And you cannot pattern trade and be successful. It's impossible because there's second entries all over this chart that if you took them, you would fail. The key is understanding we are chart readers. First and foremost, we are chart readers. Make sure you hear that. We're not pattern traders. We are chart readers. We only use the patterns to narrow down our timing on our entry and our price point on our entry. That's it. You know, when I'm looking at the chart, I'm anticipating where the next setup is going to be. Let's go back to our other chart real quick. If you haven't seen my trade examples, the last few I put up where I sit there and show you and walk you through and talk about it, go watch those. Man, those are powerful because you hear me saying why I can't enter or why I'm still waiting. But if you're looking for an uptrend here, you can't enter. You're waiting for prices to get back to this trend line. As soon as they turn down here, if I'm thinking, I might have been thinking long if I was looking at this as an uptrend, but I'm looking at this as a reversal, and that's the correct way to look at it. But let's just assume I was with him and I saw an uptrend here. Well, as soon as prices turn down here, I'm saying, okay, I'm not entering again until we get right here at this trend line, and then if I get a setup. So I'm just waiting on prices to get here. I'm not doing anything till prices get back to this trend line. And if you do that, you don't get sucked in right there. You get your second entry right here, but you can clearly see we're in a downtrend. But even if you did take that second entry, it works. So if you follow the rules, you can make tiny mistakes and still survive. But if you just blatantly don't follow the rules and your reads are not right and you're just trading patterns, you're going to fail miserably. So make sure you understand that. And I'm not just talking to this trader because he may understand that we're not pattern traders. He might have thought that was a good pattern. But it's not. And it takes a while. I mean, you can learn the strategy and the setups and all that within a few months easily. But the key is having the experience and being able to read the chart. And you can't learn that in a couple of months. I don't care who you are or what anybody tells you. It's just like any skill. You can learn the skill pretty quick, but until you are able to really practice and hone that skill, you're never going to be really good at it unless you just have some natural talent. And there's very few people that have a natural talent for trading. It's because it doesn't follow common sense and it doesn't follow normal routines. Prices do not move based on common sense, and that's what gets most people. They're smart and they've trusted their common sense and they've used their common sense over the years, and it's rewarded them. So it's like it's ironed into your DNA to trust your common sense because it pays off to trust it. But don't take my word. If you try to use common sense trading, you will fail every time miserably because prices don't move based on common sense. Prices move here based on the emotions of thousands of people thinking and doing things at one time. And so it's totally different than common sense. So, but anyway, I hope this was a good learning experience. You can see what my chart looks like. You can see why you shouldn't have entered there. You can see, I just told you had to be patient. You're not even thinking about a trade till it gets here because we're not pattern traders. We're chart readers. And if I don't see the chart setting up, the pattern setting up where it's supposed to, I'm probably not going to take it. So, I mean, you can see that's not a leg down. That's just sideways. And so there's your first leg, your first entry, then your second leg, and your second entry was right there. Even there's not an entry. I wouldn't mark a trade there because you see it continues. We're in a downtrend here. The uptrend is played out. It's over. And so this is what you call a transition point. And you probably don't do anything in this transition point until you get a confirmed trend line in the other direction, or this one gets confirmed and prices continue to go higher, and then you might trade it. Say, okay, well, there is another trend here, but that doesn't happen. It just kept going lower. So make sure you understand that you're looking for these setups to happen, these patterns at certain places. We're not just trading patterns. And that's what happens. People hear about this second entry, this two-legged pullback, because some of the people that stole the idea from me had to start give it a different name because they were stealing my materials and I was threatening them to sue them, and so they changed the name of it to a two-legged pullback or something of that nature. And these guys are excellent internet marketers, so they sucked people in left and right with that pattern. But if you just trade that pattern, you're going to, and it is such a powerful pattern, it'll work 50% of the time, but 50% is not nearly good enough to survive at this. Not even close. If you can't survive at this at 60 or 65%, you got to be up there at 80 or 90% as a scalper to survive. And so you need trades that work 80 or 90% of the time. And so we're waiting on those setups, and you got to learn to spot them, and you got to learn to be patient and uh, be disciplined, to not, because you get antsy. I can see right now he's getting antsy. There's second entry. I'm gonna miss it. I got to take this trade, and that's the wrong way to be thinking. The right way to be thinking is, okay, when this turned down from up here, what am I waiting on to happen now? I want prices to come back to this trend line and either give me a second entry long or maybe a higher low, proving the trend line both times. Then I'll probably go long. But instead, you get a break, a pullback to test the EMA, and the trend line and the downtrend continues. Because you're in a downtrend and you expect prices to retest the low. Not only they retest it, I think you get two measured legs down, just like you had two measured legs up. You can see that. There's your two measured legs down, and then look what happens here. You get two more legs up, two legs down. The market moves in twos, and it needs to look like twos. Right here, you could say, okay, first entry, second entry, third entry, but that's a double top. I wouldn't count that. Here's one leg, first entry. There's a second entry long right there. Right off, of course, you don't really have a key entry point there, but that's how he drew it. And that is a second entry, and look at it, takes off. So you got to follow, you got to understand all this stuff, and you can't put all this together in a couple of months, few months, or you need all that experience. But anyway, we're almost 20 minutes. I haven't even started the chart lesson, and we are into 2:30. So I'm gonna pause it here. We're gonna start the chart lesson, and we'll go from there. Okay, here's our daily chart, and you can see we were rallying pretty strongly, and we backed off of that. It looks like we're going to try and close below that outer band line is what it looks like to me. We could continue. There's a little over an hour left in this trading day. It's just almost 4 o'clock, almost 3 o'clock. So there's an hour and 15 minutes to go in the trading day. So things could change. We could actually push back up, or my guess is we'll close below that brown line the way it's looking. So, but there's our daily chart. We continue to push towards this target. When we were down here, it was hard to believe that we'd be able to make a measured move up, but it looks like it's going to happen. I mean, I see it happen over and over and over. When you least expect it, prices manage to do it. So never underestimate a measured move, because this stuff's like clockwork. You can set your clock on it a lot of times, and a lot of times it's to the tick exactly. So, but anyway, let's flip over to the regular chart, and we'll go through the trades, and we'll wrap this day and this week up. Okay, here's our 2000 tick chart. You can see mostly sideways. We rallied, and now we're selling off, as I was showing you on the thing. But it looks like we had two legs up. Did I get it? Let's get this. This is the start here to there, and you can see that's pretty much what we got. We went a little higher than that on our two legs up, and then we've pretty much been correcting since then. We did go sideways here. You had to be really patient. There weren't a lot of trades early this morning, and then but we had a few in the afternoon. Just kind of a slow trading day, really. Not a lot going on here, but it is what it is. And I think a few of the trades that did set up were pretty good trades. But 7 o'clock came as we're kind of topping out up here somewhere. Time there's maybe it was right in here. So yeah, right in here. 7 o'clock came right in here. Just a first entry. It actually technically is a second entry, but there's no setup. But we had a break of this trend and a move to a new high, and then we're working down, close outside, a couple of swings to a new low, but you don't get a setup down there. And then we set the trend line here and we confirm it here. Now I did mark this one green. Notice you got a new swing high here, and so you try to go higher twice. That's a failed second entry long, and it's just a first entry short, but it's a failed second entry long. Continuation type pattern. So maybe you take that. It's, it's very advanced. It's not for most of you. Most of you be better off to ignore that trade. But I marked it for our more advanced traders. We've been working down. We do get another second entry here too, but this is your signal. Actually, this would be your signal bar. Notice you got a new low in its first entry, and then it turns back up and it makes a higher low here. So even though it doesn't break higher, when it breaks lower, that's a second entry, but you can't trade that inside bar, so there's no setup there either. Now you got a double bottom, so first entry, second entry. This is similar to the other example I told you. Technically, there's a second entry right here, but that's not a leg up. That's just sideways stuff. And so there's your first leg, first entry. Here's your second entry, and again, no setup. We just didn't get a setup. Now, if you'd have taken this second entry, you'd have probably got burned if you're. So that's why you got to look at the chart. You can't just go, well, there's exactly 6 ticks, so it would have worked. If you entered it on the engulfing bar, which you could have there because it was such a nice bar, I wouldn't enter it there, but you could, based on the rules, if that was a true second entry, and you would have had plenty of room to get out. But you still had 6 ticks here, and that's all you need to get 4 ticks. But notice you got to trend up, break, move to a new high, and then you turn down. And it's a shame on the true second entry here, there was no setup. It's just one of those days where you don't get a lot of setups. And now you got your break, a couple of legs to a new low, and now you're trending up. Maybe we're going to get a reversal here. Doesn't end up happening because you get your break almost instantly. And that's a second entry with the trend. You're expecting a retest of the highs. This is actually a little lower here. And you can see that working up. You get your break, and you got a new high, and you get a first entry, second entry. A nice signal bar. I like that one. And this is just sideways, and you actually get 2 legs up to a new high. That's a second entry short after you're breaching a new high. And nice signal bar way away from the EMA. Most of you should probably wait on a lower high, but I like that trade. I'm probably going to take it most times. I marked it red. But hopefully you can see that. Notice the trend up, close outside, 2 measured legs, and you can see they're 2 pretty much measured legs up and a second entry short. And it's way away from the EMA, and it just bottom falls out. And then we're kind of working sideways here. There's really a trend, a range here. I didn't draw it that way. I just drew the resistance because we're trending down here. We're in a bigger downtrend. So you're more interested in going short than long. So sometimes I just draw that line, but you can draw it like it is here to be sure. And notice what happens. You get a failed break out the bottom, and that leads to a break of this downtrend line. And you already had a triple test. Now this is a quadruple. If this had closed outside, I'd tell you wait on the lower high, but it closes back inside the range. You're in a downtrend. Just go short there, and you can see they trapped the longs, people thinking they'd found a bottom. This is people picking bottoms all across here, and they get burned right here, and it makes a new low. And they probably start piling in on their shorts again here and get burned going the other way. And you don't want to get into that. Don't try to pick tops and bottoms. Just don't try to do it. It's hard to do for even experienced traders. So just leave them alone. That's a great trap right there and a nice move down. And if you caught that one trade today, that might be all you need because you're probably going to get a runner there. I mean, if you just went to the first green bar and put your stop above it, that's almost 14 ticks. And that's just a great move there. And then you start working sideways and notice you got a 1, 2, 3 triple test. Decent signal bar. Go long there. And this one takes off too. You might have got a runner on this one. And if you went to your first bearish bar that had a break below it, you would have got 20, almost 25 points on one runner. So it don't take but a trade or two like that, and you're making good money. But you got to be able to. The key is reading the chart. It's not the pattern. Just reading the chart and knowing where to enter. So don't come in here thinking you're going to trade patterns or you found some magic with this two-legged pullback or second entry, because they're powerful, but you're not going to make money with them by themselves. You got to be able to read this chart. That's the bottom line. There's no software. There's no indicator. There's no pattern. There's no setup. There's no anything that you can trade consistently and be a scalper, or probably even trend trade, or trend trading, and or swing trading, whatever you want to call it, and be successful long term. And because those patterns don't win enough, none of them will win. The best ones are about a 50%er, and you can't make it being right only 50% of the time. It's impossible, especially scalping. So just don't even try it. But we had another second entry here, but no signal bar. I hate when you get that. You got the trend working down. You get a close outside and you don't get a new low either. Maybe you could argue you got to close outside the new low all in one, but there's no signal bar because that's an inside. That's not even an inside bar. It's just a higher bar. You do get a higher low here, but that signal bar is no good. This one's got a higher low than that one, so you can't use it. But guess what? Right here, you actually get a first entry, second entry. Now, does that look like two legs back? Not really, but it's such a small pattern that, if you went to a smaller chart, I bet you'd see two legs back there. So I think you're okay. It's right off the key entry point. It's a second entry long. You can see we're working higher again here. The trend line's holding, so I like going long there. And look at it go once again. We didn't have many trades today, but when you found one, look at them go. I mean, even if you just went to there, there's almost 10 points. But if you drew your trend line up there and waited till you got to close outside, you probably would have gone to here and got 20 points. I mean, I can remember it wasn't long, very long ago that the market, the whole day wouldn't move 20 points. And to be able to make 20 points in a few minutes time, I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. There it is. So I probably would have waited till here and put my stop right there. I might have put it right there. But you don't have a break. You're not back to the high yet. And you can see we don't quite get there. And then we start working over. Well, that's telling you, hey, we're losing momentum. We're probably going to get a break here soon. So be careful on any of your entries. And notice you trend down here, close outside, new low, and you get a second entry. Just go long. I marked it green because it looks a little consolidated. It looks a little congested. And it is right into the EMA. We do get a higher low, but it's still congested, and it's not a perfect. I don't like that signal bar, so if I didn't enter here, I probably wouldn't enter that one. It does break on out. That's just a first entry, and you make a lower high here. If you'd had a good signal bar, I'd have told you to go short there, but you don't get one. And you get a first entry, and you come down here, and so this is a second entry long. A good signal bar. Those are 3-bar matching lows, so you could use any one of those bars. So this could be your signal bar. You can go long one tick above that, and you see you have to ride it out, but it ends up working. And I would always draw my trend channel, and you see you got your first break there. It tried to make a new high and couldn't, and took off. And this is that trade I was showing you. It wasn't back to his trend line. I didn't see that. I just saw this as a break and 2 legs up. Now, the reason I like this long was because we're just playing this trend channel and you get a break and a new low. If it would have bounced here and held, then I probably would have said, hey, yeah, I like this trend channel here. I'm not saying it's not even the trend channel there. I just don't, it doesn't play out like he traded it here is what I'm saying. So it was already over. And you can see it just turns right back down. And again, if he would have entered, so that's even that signal bar doesn't qualify on my chart. I don't know if, but he let it break higher and come back and then entered, and it didn't go back up. It just kept going lower because prices were headed down, not up. And that's where his biggest mistake is. He's counter trend trading there. All along here, he should have been going long, but here's where the market's reversed. And you can clearly see the trend channel, and he had it on there too, but he just ignored it. So you got to remember that. We make a new low here. It's our first break of that channel. First entry, then it goes higher and turns back down. That's a second entry short. You can't enter that on the engulfing bar, so you got to wait till here. I'm not as crazy about it right there, but most likely we're going to continue lower because that's a big bearish bar. They trap some longs there. Probably people that are also looking at this as a new trend and it fails on them. So I like trading that as a trap and going short there. And we start working sideways. You could consider going long here, but I'd wait on the higher low. This one would have worked. But trying to pick bottoms is just hard to do. And you can see we weren't nearly to the bottom yet. We had a long way. We had a whole nother leg to go. There's actually 2 legs down there. But it is, it's not a second entry either. It's a first entry, second entry, third entry. But I just think you're playing it as a break and new low. You really need to wait on a higher low there. And you can see it continues lower. You get a break, new low. Same thing. You might enter there, but you probably want to wait on a higher low. And that's moved too far for a higher low. But look what happens. You're moving up. You get a close outside first entry. You're moving up. So you got your close outside a new high and a break below that nice bearish bar is a second entry short. There's plenty of room back to the EMA. I like taking that. And you see it took it a second, but it drops on down. It bounces. And then it bounces again on that triple test. Just go long there. And notice too, you got this trend channel working down. You got to close outside and new low. You didn't have that here. If you'd have taken that, that still would have worked, but I don't like that one. It's just, you might say, okay, that's a higher low, but we've moved a long way before we came back again. So I would wait on a higher low or a triple test, and that comes here, and boom, off it goes again. And guess what? You get another close outside and new high. So that's a second entry short, but signal bar doesn't qualify on that one. So you really can't take it. No entry there. Running down, another first entry, and now we're just working sideways. That one's tempting, but you can't go long into that resistance. It ends up working, but nothing you can do about that. You follow the rules if you didn't take it because there's no entry there. And notice you're working up, close outside, move to a new high, and it tried to go higher multiple times. If that signal bar was a little more bearish, I'd say go short there. But I didn't like it on that bar. And even this one is like 1 minute into, it's not even 1 minute, it's like a few seconds into 230. If it would have broke lower next bar, I'd have said go short on that one, but it doesn't. It gives you another inside bar. So I just, and it's not bearish enough. So, and you can see it just took off. So it's a shame that we didn't get a setup right there. But that's the way it goes sometimes. So, but there it is. We're over 30 minutes here, so I'm not going to beat around the bush with this today. Hopefully you learned something today. I've encouraged people to send me their live trade. I'd rather you send me a video of your live trade, win or lose, and ask me for my input. And some of them I'll pick and I'll bring them on here and we'll watch the videos or we'll go through the trade. I'll start trying to do more of these when I can. It just makes the video that much longer and it's that much more time for me. So it's difficult, but I'll try to do some occasionally because I know they're good learning opportunities for people. So anyway, hope you had a good trading day. I hope you had a good week. Tomorrow's Friday, so no chart lesson tomorrow. We'll be back Monday, and we'll start over Monday. So I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.